Hey, friends. I'm Elizabeth Hogan. I'm the director of Gathering Kids, and welcome to the Gathering Kids podcast. I'm here with my friends Ellie and Bentley, and the three of us are site leaders at Churches for the Gathering. I am a mom of two little girls, and I have been attending the Gathering for 12 years, but I've been site leader at McCausland site for about 6 months now, which is very exciting. Ellie, what about you?
I started attending the Gathering at the end of 2021. We started out at Webster, where I led the kids ministry there for about a year, but we are now at Clayton and having a great time. I am mom to 4 little kids, and life is always very busy and very fun.
My name is Bentley. I am new back to the Gathering as of this last January, so I've been here for about 5 months. And I'm very excited to be the Webster Kids site leader. I have 2 kids of my own, and we love to do all sorts of fun things during the summer, and I hope to do some of those things with you.
Excellent. Excellent.
All right, so we try to start these podcasts out with kind of a fun question, and I have to admit, I have been influenced. I saw everybody posting their summer bucket lists on social media, and I was like, all right, I got to make one. So we did the ABC bucket list. We added one thing for each letter, and it was kind of tricky when we got to like X and Y. But we did make a bucket list. So my question for you guys is, what is on your summer bucket list this year? What's something you would like to do either personally or with your kids? Whatever your bucket list is.
I love it. We're trying to keep ours simple this year. We love going to the pool. We love going to the farmer's market. And then we're trying to add in just little local things. We're not doing a big trip. We're doing one in the fall. So the thing that we're doing that's exciting is Circus Flora. That's the one that's coming up.
Very
My kids
fun.
have never been to the circus yet. So we're excited about that.
I don't think I've ever been. That sounds so fun.
Apparently it's a cool thing. So we're going to go with our cousins and we're going to see that. It's going to be great.
Cool.
Our big bucket list item this year is my daughter Josie is 2, almost 3, and she is very afraid of bugs. If anybody's met Josie, they are well aware of this fact. So our goal this summer, our bucket list, yes, the locusts or the cicadas or whatever those bugs may be, they're freshly gone-ish. But mostly the flies, they are very scary to 2-year-olds. So we're trying to grow in our confidence this summer in our bucket list.
I love that. Well, there are so many fun things happening around the Gathering this summer. We have our summer hangs going on. Each of us are leading individual summer hangs, but there's also a lot of changes happening in Gathering Kids, which I think all of us are really excited about. And we kind of thought we might talk you through some of those things and some of the things that you might see that are different. So one of the things that you might see physically in our spaces is that McCausland and Clayton have ordered quite a bit of new classroom furniture for our spaces and are going to be doing some space updates. That happened for Webster site last summer. So that's going to be a really cool thing that's happening. You also might see some new and different coloring sheets coming home with your kids that represent what they have learned in their time in kids' church on Sunday morning. And so you might see some different take-homes coming. So that's kind of another thing that you might notice as a parent or as a volunteer if you're engaging with Gathering Kids. And a lot more information about some of the changes coming up will be coming in August as we do our fall launch on August 11th. We'll have Blessing of the Backpacks. Our new fourth graders will get Bibles. We will do an open house in our kids' spaces and have a celebration and a time of special gathering around what's happening for kids and for students. So those things are all coming up, but it's just a really exciting time to be a part of what's happening in Gathering Kids. And in order to make a lot of these changes and to fill our spaces with love and with the Holy Spirit and with God in our midst, we're inviting more and more people to come in and be alongside of us on our teams. We have already in each of our sites seen a lot of growth on our kids teams. It's truly one of the most cool things about being on a team that is this excited. But we thought, as we're making some of those asks and trying to get our congregation to know a little bit more about what is happening in kids ministry and why it's important, we might just want to talk you through a little bit of that and what we think. We talk about it all the time, but we don't always have a chance to have those in-depth conversations with our families and our other volunteers and just people in the congregation who are curious about what happens in Gathering Kids. So today is that day. Before we jump into what those volunteers roles look like, though, Bentley, you are our resident seminarian. You're the person who we lean on because you have been going through the seminary process and have had a heart for ministry in that particular way for quite a while, but also have this great heart for kids. Can you talk to us a little bit about why taking part in kids ministry is important and a part of our faith?
Absolutely. Jesus talks so much about kids and how important they are to the kingdom of God. Jesus had a special place in his heart for children, and he called us to be like him in our love and care for these little ones. In Matthew 19, we see that Jesus says, "Allow the children to come to me, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to people like these children." This is an invitation for us to embrace the innocence, curiosity, and pure joy that children bring. Working with children in ministry is a beautiful way to reflect Jesus' love. It's a chance to make a lasting impact, nurturing young hearts and minds in a positive and inclusive environment. By serving in kids ministry, you're not only sharing God's love, but also receiving the profound blessings that come from their laughter, questions, and growth. Consider this your calling to step into this rewarding journey. Talk with one of us after church, during church, text us. We're always available. Let's be more like Jesus and invest in the future of our faith by guiding and supporting the children in our community. They need your kindness, they need your patience, and they need all of our love. Will you answer the call?
Yes, I will. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm here for it. The Bible talks quite a bit about us using our gifts that God has given us, right? And we also ask that of our kids. One of the great things about getting involved in gathering kids is that no matter what your gift is, there's a place for you. We talk a lot about that our kids in our church are ours to care for and to cultivate and to walk alongside in their own faith journey. And they don't just belong to the parents or the volunteers who are currently in kids ministry. They belong to our whole church. And that is one of the things that we promise when we accept them in during their baptism. And so we thought today that we would talk to you about some of the different ways to serve. I think sometimes it feels a little bit overwhelming to people who maybe haven't stepped into that space before or don't quite know how it would feel. And we just want you to know that there are ways to serve the kids of our congregation and to equip the next generation to be followers of Christ that match your gifts. So we're going to take a little bit of time and walk you through all of those things. Now, I do want to preface this as we're going through this process and this conversation. You don't have to be a kids person to serve in gathering kids, right? Like I was saying, I'm not a cat person, but I'm happy to pet a cat. You don't have to be a kids person and serve in gathering kids, because serving doesn't have to be hands-on with kids all the time. You don't have to be a parent. You don't have to have a job in education. You don't even have to see your role as a teacher. We don't only need teachers to make what is going to be a really impactful and excellent kids ministry come to life. We need everybody. Even if you've never worked with kids before, even if kids kind of scare you a little bit, there are ways for you to get involved in what God's doing in the life of our church for the next generation. Ellie, you want to talk to us a little bit about what it looks like to serve with our youngest babies?
Yes, I will talk about what it is like to serve in the nursery. So at all of our sites right now, nursery goes from age 0, so from birth up until when a child turns 3. At that point, they move on to pre-K. So in the nursery, you're really looking at working with babies and toddlers. And our goal in the nursery is a little bit different in some ways than in our other classrooms. There's no right now structured formal curriculum. Our goal is mainly to make sure our babies and toddlers see church as a safe, loving space. We want them to feel nurtured and cared for when they come to our spaces as they're separating from their parents while their parents go to worship. And we also want them to have a lot of fun. Like, we want to establish that foundation of church being a positive environment for children. And another goal of the nursery that's helpful, yes, we're serving the babies and toddlers, but also their parents. If you've ever tried to worship in the service with a baby or a toddler on your hip, it is not easy unless they're napping, but otherwise it's tricky. And so our goal with nursery is that parents can be fully immersed in the worship experience and can be very confident knowing that someone is doing a great job taking care of their children for them. So serving in the nursery is ideal for someone who maybe loves those babies, loves those toddlers, just can't get enough. Someone who doesn't want to teach, because right now there's no teaching happening, but there is a lot of love. And it's still more than babysitting. It is an investment in laying that foundation of church, our place of faith, as being a safe, loving place. This can be a great role for someone who's older. We have a lot of grandmas in our nurseries, and they seem to have just a special touch with calming those babies. And this is also a great role for someone who cares not just about the kids, but especially about supporting new parents, new moms. It's a great opportunity for you. So that's just a quick snapshot of the nursery. And Bentley, do you want to talk about pre-K?
I'd love to talk about pre-K. So pre-K takes over from nursery at 3 years old and will serve up until kindergarten. In our inclusive pre-K classroom, we value and celebrate every child's unique abilities and backgrounds. Our environment is welcoming and accessible. It is also the start of curriculum. We have lesson plans that are carefully constructed for this age group. So go in and learn, and we will help foster you as an educator to bring these fun activities to our kids. We like to suit different we suit different people of different abilities and, to offer a strong sense of community. We do that through collaborative play, through the lessons, like I mentioned, and through a lot of group activities to help and promote the social skills that are developing in that pre-K age room. It's a vibrant space where all kids can learn, grow, and thrive together.
I love that. So when they are ready to move up into kindergarten, right, they're going to come into our lower elementary space. Now, a couple things happen and look a little bit different as they move into that space. And I want you to think about any of the kids that you've known, or even to think back on your own experience. We are guiding kids into developing a relationship with God, and we're paying attention to what happens for them developmentally. So kids are constantly, from the moment that they're born, getting more responsibility. They're more and more interested in interacting with their peers as the years move on. And they're constantly growing into an autonomy of their own life experience and away from their family unit. And so our process also reflects that. So when they're moving into that kindergarten, first, or second and third grade space, they are now going to get a chance to go into a separate large group worship, in addition to having time to play with their friends, ask questions about their faith, learn that God loves them. They are also going to have that experience of starting to learn what it means to worship. What does it mean to pray? What does it mean to be in relationship with God and start to ask questions and start to trust that God is there with them, helping them to know how to make the right choice? Those are some of the powerful ways that as we move our kiddos into their lower elementary experience, that we're starting to equip them in not just preparing them to be adults, right? But to teach them practices of faith that will carry them through a lifetime. Practices like prayer, worship, learning in small groups, giving, and serving. So those 5 practices that our church takes on as recommendations for participating in a full life of the church membership, we develop those with our kiddos too, because we really believe that that's a way to have a full, rich relationship with God. You want to talk about what happens as they move into that next phase, Ellie? Because, you know, we have our kindergarten through third grade, we kind of consider them our lower elementary grades. And then something special happens when they get into that 4th grade bridge.
Yes, it is special. So upper elementary, I think in all of our sites, most of our sites, you're looking at 4th and 5th grade having a really unique experience within Gathering Kids. Our kids have been in the kids ministry maybe since birth, and in just a year or two, they'll be moving into our whole church adult worship service, and that's a really big transition. And so we see this 4th and 5th grade upper elementary classroom as being a bridge to help them be successful in making that transition. So we see students are doing less consuming of content in this classroom, in that they're not just hearing a lesson spoken to them, they're actually doing exploring themselves. So instead of hearing a Bible lesson, we might say, all right, together, let's turn to John 1, and we read it together, and our students share what they notice, and they ask questions, and it's more of that discussion. So that's one of the big transitions that helps prepare them for when they move into our youth group and are starting to have small groups throughout the week. Our students are learning how to navigate the Bible. So instead of turn to John 1 on page 892, it's turn to John 1, use your table of contents. This is in the New Testament, learning those structures of the Bible, what the chapter is, what the verse is, New Testament, Old Testament, the books of the Bible. So our older elementary kids are going to be learning about that. They're also going to learn in a little more depth what Liz was describing, the 5 practices of our church. Where did those originate? Why do we do them? And also our sacraments, because as they move into adult worship, they're going to start more regularly participating in things like communion. They're going to see more baptisms. And so we want them to have the foundation of understanding where those traditions came from. In this age group, there's also going to be less of an emphasis on structured group activities. There's still some, but there's more of an emphasis on that socialization, kind of that free time, and allowing our kids to build lasting friendships. Social stuff is just so important as they start to head towards the teen years, and so we try to make space for that. So serving in this role is really ideal for someone who loves the idea of facilitating those biblical discussions, someone who cares a lot about the faith and wants to help our kids begin to develop their own personal faith and understanding of the Bible. It's also ideal, I would say, for someone who appreciates sarcasm, because when you get to this age, the kids, not all of them, but sometimes they get a little bit sassy and they like to joke around, with each other and with their teachers. And so having a sense of humor with this age, I feel like is very important. And also someone who cares a lot about the relationships, because you can certainly have a relationship with a baby, but there's a different depth of relationship, I'd say, you could have with an older student who's just engaging in deeper conversation. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of upper elementary.
I love that. So far we've talked about all of the classrooms or the rooms that we have for different age groups, but there are actually other ways to serve as well that maybe aren't with a full large group of kiddos. One of the things that I have found to be super helpful at McCausland in my own space, and I know my colleagues at the other sites do too, is the role of a front desk person. A front desk person to man that first experience for visiting families, but also to equip what's going on in the classroom. The people who work at the front desk, usually at McCausland, I try to have 1 or 2 people scheduled because the way our setup is structured, if kids need to go use the restroom, our front desk people keep an eye on the hallway to make sure that kids are supervised in that transitional time. They will respond to any issues. Like, let's say, we had a little girl do a cartwheel and her arm just gave out under her and she landed on her face and she needed an ice pack. So the front desk person is the person who can go and take care of bandaging a little finger that gets hurt or providing a kiddo with an ice pack. They are the person who welcomes new families, sort of in that same way that the connections role is in the front of our church. In the lobbies of most of our spaces, we have adult connections, but we also have a kids connections process too. And we focus on acclimating the new families to what they're going to experience when they step into our space. Our front desk people also take care of things like providing extra resources that might have run out during the course of a class period. They print off a roster and deliver those to classrooms and take a head count. So it's a lot of administrative type work that the front desk folks are doing. Now, you may be thinking, well, Liz, you like to be up near the front desk on a Sunday morning. Why would you need another person to be there? One of the things that is going to make our ministry excellent and not just great is when Ellie and Bentley and I can be freed up to be able to have conversations with people who are not yet engaged in kids ministry and to be present in worship, to be able to speak to what's happening in kids and to be present for those interactions at this most critical time. There is really a period of about 45 or 50 minutes on a Sunday morning before and after each worship service where we have a chance to connect with new families, to help families make connections with each other, to recruit new volunteers who might be interested in what's happening in kids ministry, and to welcome new families into our space. So when we have enough hands to be able to make sure that all of the operations of a Sunday morning are working smoothly, then we are, as leaders, are free to be able to step in and help a teacher in a classroom if needed with a discipline thing, or we are able to interact with families. So this role of a front desk person who is a resource for all of our classrooms throughout the whole morning, it can't be underestimated. It really needs to be focused on. And luckily, we have really equipped people who can do that. So that would be great for somebody who maybe doesn't want to be in the classroom with kids, but really cares about supporting kids. Somebody who can be a friendly face to new families and is willing to learn sort of the overarching view of what happens in kids ministry so that they can help troubleshoot from a higher level. So it's less of a hands-on, more of an administrative type of role. If you're somebody who's really organized, you like systems, you want to be able to look up a nursery parent's name to text them if their baby's having trouble in the nursery, this is the kind of role for you to kind of facilitate what's happening for kids in that space. Now, if you're still a person who doesn't necessarily want to be hands-on with a bunch of kids, like maybe you don't feel comfortable leading a whole classroom of 15 or 20 kiddos on a Sunday morning, there's still another Sunday morning role for you that you could step into.
We're talking about being a buddy.
Yeah.
Being a buddy means providing one-on-one support and encouragement to help a fellow student feel more successful. Buddies play a crucial role, especially for children with special needs, ensuring that they and others feel safe, included, and capable. It's all about fostering friendships, promoting understanding, and helping every child thrive in our vibrant learning community. It's a chance to be one-on-one with a special friend that can just really change your life more than you're going to change theirs. And it's a beautiful place to be. Just ask us if we have a need, if we have somebody that would need a buddy, and we'd love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah. Can each of you kind of, maybe from your experience in facilitating buddies for some of our kiddos, talk about you can just be a person who wants to help and be a buddy, but some of our kids have needs that might be more extensive. And so we also have a need for buddies who are a little bit differently equipped. Can either of you talk a little bit about what we might be looking for somebody who is going to be a buddy for a student with more profound need?
Yes, I can speak to this because my little guy Finn was the first guy at the gathering to have a buddy, as far as I know. He has Down syndrome, and we realized that he needed a buddy when he was in the nursery. We kept him in there a little past age 3. He was really tiny, and developmentally it made sense. But he started wanting to sit on babies, and we're like, all right, we got to get him to pre-K. It's time. But he needs help in the classroom. He needs that extra support. So we got him set up with some people who could provide that one-on-one support to him. And what that looks like for Finn is he might want to read a book, or he might want to do a puzzle, but he doesn't have the fine motor skills to be able to do it. Or he might want to play with a friend, but he does not speak in a way that another child would understand what he's saying. And so he can benefit from having an adult who can kind of help facilitate that friendship interaction. Finn also thinks every single week when we sit down for circle time that we're playing Duck, Duck, Goose. So he starts going around and hitting everybody on top of the head. And so he just needs someone other than the lead teacher who could be like, hey, buddy, we're not doing that right now. Come sit right here next to me. Really just someone who's going to help guide him through. Finn is going to be sassy. Finn has opinions. So I also tell my buddies, Finn might flop on the floor and refuse to do what you're asking him to do. Just let him have his moment. As a parent, I don't expect a buddy to work with Finn, the way his special ed teacher would, or the way we would at home. I just want him to be able to meaningfully participate. So give him time, let him have his moment, and then invite him to join back in. And it's made a huge difference in our family's life, being able to have this buddy support. And I know for any family who has a child with a disability, having a buddy or not having a buddy could be the difference between being able to attend church or not being able to attend church. So I just don't want anyone to hear it's not a lead teacher and think it's not important. It is so very important. And it'll look different for every single kid. If you have a kid who does not have an intellectual disability, but maybe they use a mobility device like a wheelchair, you're going to be providing a different type of support to that child than you would provide for Finn. And so a lot of it is getting to know the child, talking to the family and building that relationship because they are really the expert on their own child. So I think it's a really special way to serve. And I think the people who have done it would probably agree.
I love that so much. It is really empowering to think of all the ways that kids need us and families need us, right? Like providing opportunities for families to be able to worship. We have single parents in the congregation. We have families who struggle to get to church on a Sunday morning. And when they finally get here, to be able to know that their kids are well cared for. If you have raised children and your children are out of the house, you know, maybe you remember what that felt like. And for all of us in a community of Christians, our role is to step in and walk alongside of each other, to help each other out, to make sure that we feel that we are not alone in this process, right? That we have people around us who care. And in kids ministry, I am so grateful that we have the chance to do that for the people in our congregation. And it really is exciting to see how people are connecting. One of the things, I'm going to go off script here, you guys, because I think sometimes when we have conversations or we invite people in to serve in kids ministry in some way, there's sometimes when people will push back and they'll say, well, that's not the right time for me because. And I think it would be really kind of powerful if we could just talk through some of the ways that we have seen people step into this role, even though at first maybe they didn't know that it was going to be a great fit. So I'll start. I have an example. I have a great friend here at church who doesn't necessarily want to be around the groups of kids, right? And Sunday mornings are really important worship time for her, but she's somebody who's super organized. And so she stepped in and helped me for several months to prepare our supplies. She would come in during the week. She had the flexibility to do that. She'd sometimes bring in her son to help, and we'd prepare supplies together. So we do have some jobs like that would be really helpful to have extra hands in. We had somebody who stepped in to help us to develop curriculum for a period of time. We have had people who don't want to serve on a Sunday morning with kids, but they feel really strongly that they want to equip other people to do that. So we have a list of volunteers who come in for our volunteer kids trainings so that our volunteers can focus on the training itself. They just come in and volunteer for the volunteer event. So our kids volunteers can really focus. Those are a couple examples of people who are kind of serving outside of that realm. But I was just thinking about, what are some of those hesitations that people express to you when you have conversation with them?
I think sometimes if someone is busy, if someone maybe is even involved on a different serving team, they think like, oh, well, that's not really an option because I've already got this, and this going on. But we just had someone step into our nursery at Clayton who is just really, really loving it and was responded to an ask we made on a Sunday morning. And this person is so involved in the community, involved in church, but is just experiencing so much joy by snuggling our babies on a Sunday morning. And the thing about helping in the nursery is there's not prep during the week you have to do. So that ended up being a role that really worked for this person who is busy during the week, but they can just show up on a Sunday, love a baby, and they feel so happy about it because they know that means a parent is able to go experience worship and just be fully immersed in that and know that their kids are in really great hands.
I love that. I have used the excuse sometimes like, well, I'm a parent right now. I really cannot take on being around kids one more minute of the day. Something that I have noticed in some of our volunteers is that some volunteers prefer to serve with their kid because they want to get to know their kids' friends at church and the other families of people their age. Other people don't want to serve with their own kids because they're cool to be like for instance, I have a person who has a preschooler. Well, she told me she just really would prefer to serve with 4th and 5th graders because she needs a change of pace. It's not that she can't serve with kids or that she's kidded out from her own kid. She just needs a change of pace for that to feel fresh. So whether that's, serving alongside your own child and getting to know their other peer friends or their friends' families, or whether that's serving in a different age group, sometimes that change up can be enough to make it feel fresh and interesting.
I have a segue directly from that for a volunteer that is finding success very similarly to this. So she has just started volunteering during second service, but they attend first with their kid. So dad takes both kids home during the transition, and she's finding joy in the communal time in between, and then being able to serve in the same classroom as her boys. And I feel like it gives her an opportunity to have things to talk about through the week. So the boys are not in the classroom, but they have both been through the same lesson. And it's just a really powerful tool in that space. But she's also let me know it's really cool to work with kids that are not my own. Yeah. And so I think that, you know, when I'm in a classroom with my son in particular, my eye does go to him. Like I can sometimes find myself, oh, I need to make sure Jamie's doing okay. So taking off that parent hat can be hard. But then my wife, who teaches him music every, a couple times a week at school, she says that it's easy for her. Like, he's just a student now. So there's different people that have different skill sets, and it's not good or bad. It's just, where do you fit?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it as well. And I have a family that serves all together at McCausland. The mom and dad and two of the daughters serve all together once a month, and that has been really powerful to see. The two daughters are teenaged. I have another senior in high school and her mom who serve together in the nursery. They're exploring that interest in early childhood education together as the senior is kind of exploring what it's going to be like to be an adult. I have a core group that serves together on a Sunday morning. They all like to be scheduled together. I have two besties who serve in the nursery together so that they can both support babies and also have a little time to attend church together afterward. So all of these ways that people are finding to be really creative about the way that they connect with our young people and with each other. I think that is so cool to see, friends. And I'm just really excited to have you all step into that. So we've talked you through a little bit of what's going on in all of the roles that are needed to make kids ministry thrive. And our goal, the three of us step into this space as expert educators, people who care about helping kids develop a relationship with Christ. And we are also designing some out of Sunday morning experiences that are really great for kids that we want to tell you a little bit about.
Yes, first thing to talk about is park hops. We already had one, so if you missed it, don't worry. There's more coming up. But what'd you guys think of our first park hop?
I couldn't believe there were 75 people there. That's so cool.
Fun.
It was so fun, and I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, 4 kids, but on Sunday mornings, it's hard to be able to stop and just talk to people because you've got your kids, you're kind of rushing around, there's stuff to do. But it was so nice being able to sit in a pavilion. Our kids were playing on the playground and getting to have some deeper conversations than what I can typically have with someone on a Sunday. So
it was super meaningful. And just to watch the kids play together too.
Yeah.
To watch their eyes light up when they see their church friends and family outside of the church space. That is something that is really meaningful. As a teacher, if I would see a kid at the store, they would always kind of look wide-eyed at me. And I think that there is something about seeing people outside of the typical space where you get to interact with them that's really cool in developing relationships.
Absolutely.
Ellie and I were also covered in
cotton
candy, elbow deep in my face. So it was really fun to be able to share that experience with everybody.
So the ones coming up, we have one on July 7th. That will be at Tillis Park. Believe it or not, in St. Louis, there are 2 Tillis Parks that are only a few miles apart. Interesting choice, St. Louis. But the one we're going to is in South City at Hampton and Filer. So join us at all of these park hops. We have a pavilion. We have an amazing playground. There's also some sort of splash pad water feature for the kids to play in. So if you care about, them not getting wet in their clothes, just bring them in their swimsuits, their swim gear, and they'll have a ton of fun. Our last park hop of the summer will be August 4th at Shaw Park in Clayton. So should be a lot more fun to be had this summer. We also have playgroups coming up. We have kind of a different version of a playgroup at each site. So Bentley, do you want to tell us about what you've going on?
Sure. We have been enjoying Camp Gathering. We had our first session this last Monday. We had 16 friends come and we made bracelets. It was called Bracelets in Bushcraft. And so we got to explore some of the nature around Webster Groves with a scavenger hunt to kind of find some of the things that we were going to craft with later. And then there was a bracelet demonstration going on to help you learn how to make bracelets. It was a lot of fun. July 1st, just in advance of the 4th of July, we're going to have music and marshmallows. Music. So this is going to be a campfire activity. We're going to do all the fun things around a campfire, mostly learning about how to be safe around the fire.
Awesome.
We geared this one intentionally right before the 4th of July to hopefully enforce some of those fire safeties. We had to move the tie-dye and tents from June 24th to July 29th. That one's going to be fun. We're going to be setting up all sorts of different types of tents. You can go inside, you can set up your own little rest area if you want to kind of get used to the idea of being at a camp. We are also going to be tie-dyeing that day, so bring something white that is washed and ready to be tie-dyed. We'll have all the dyes. Backtracking from that one, because that was the reschedule, the Art of Nature will be July 15th. And we're going to be enjoying an indoor hike. We're going to explore some of the sights and smells of nature in a space that is not nature, but more comfortable for all people to be able to enjoy something that they maybe wouldn't always get to. That will culminate with a stargazing. So I'm excited for that.
That's going to be so much fun. At McCausland, we are doing a series of summer hangs. The one that is geared toward young people, little ones, is our toddler playgroup. Every Tuesday in July, we will host a toddler playgroup here at McCausland's site. It's getting hot in the summer. It's hard to get our little kiddos outside and give them the movement and fun that they need to have. And so we're just going to open up the church nursery, and it will be a time where you can socialize with other parents who bring their kiddos, let the kids play, have some grown-up talk time, and just get a chance to get to know some of the other families that attend McCausland on a regular basis. So that's for toddlers and younger and their parents or caregivers. And then at McCausland, we're also having farmers market nights every week in June and July. We're meeting up at Francis Park to attend and play on the playground, but there's a farmers market that happens on Thursday evenings. So from 4 to 6 or so, 4:30-ish to 6, we are meeting between the playground and the farmers market and letting our kids play. Last week was so much fun. We had about 25 people there. The kids were really enjoying playing and climbing in, making a tree house in one of the trees, and the parents got to talk and make some connections. And it's really valuable time just to be together. That's what summer hangs are all about for us this summer, is just giving parents and our community a chance to get together. You can invite a friend who doesn't go to the gathering. Everybody's welcome, but it's a time to gather.
All right. And then at Clayton on the 1st and 3rd Fridays in June and July, we are having a playgroup that is specifically for families who have a preschooler or a toddler with special needs, disability, or a diagnosis of some kind. So if that is you, please come join us. It'll be from 9:30 till 11:30 at our Clayton site. And this is just meant to be a time for our kids to be able to play together, use our kids' play spaces at Clayton, and also for parents to be able to connect with other parents who are just on a bit of a similar journey.
I love this. Friends, there is so much going on in the life of our church, especially for kids and families. And we are really grateful that you are along with us on that journey of helping to help kids in their development of their spiritual life. Thank you for considering each of these roles as we laid them out. Thank you for taking the time to listen and to see into the vision that we have for creating a safe and developmentally appropriate experience for kids in our church. It means a lot to each of us that we can be in partnership with you to develop that and to create something that is really compelling for kids and also really supportive for families as they continue their walk in relationship with God. Can we pray together before we go?
Yes.
All right. God, thank you for your presence with us. Thank you for the wisdom that you pour into our lives so that we can share it with each other and the little kiddos who are in front of us. Equip the families, the volunteers, and the staff of this church to see kids as full participants in the life of our church, to embrace the opportunity to help them grow in their faith, and to be willing to step into somewhat uncomfortable roles to fill the spaces needed to make sure that kids are safe, welcome, and loved. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Have a great month, everybody. We'll see you next time.